Good morning, everyone, and thanks again for joining us for today's presentation, Emergency Digital Access, Creating a Transition Plan for Your Digital Information. Before I introduce today's presenter, I'd like to turn it over to Ike Elmo for just a moment to say a few words about University House. Ike?
Thank you, Tina. We are so happy to host our webinar today and glad you can join us. As most of you are aware, University House Wallingford has a long and successful affiliation with the University of Washington Retirement Association for the past 25 years. Our company, Era Living, has had a relationship with the University of Washington for over 35 years. Our approach to retirement living has been our dedication to fostering a healthy and engaging environment of whole body wellness, lifelong learning, warmth, and social fulfillment, providing enriching activities and exceptional healthcare services. It is this type of innovative and vibrant approach to senior living that makes University House Wallingford such a wonderful place to live. It is not where you live, but how you live that makes a difference at University House Wallingford. Throughout the year, we've had a series of interesting and distinguished speakers that present to our community. We discuss a wide range of relevant and interesting topics, and we invite you to join us again in the future. At this time, it is my pleasure to ask Tina Hall to introduce our speaker for today's presentation.
Thank you, Ike. All right, we are in for a treat today. Our speaker is Bridget Agabra. Bridget has a wonderful company called GentleTechHelp.com, and she provides training and service for all things digital. And believe me, I've seen some of her presentations other than this one, and they are fantastic. And they're wonderful for seniors or for the tech uncomfortable, such as myself. So I'd love to introduce her. Bridget, it's all you. Take it away, and here we go.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for being here. University House really values that lifelong education. And so if you're here today, it's because not only are you concerned about your digital things, but you are a little bit curious and brave and want to explore this digital space and how it impacts your life. And I really thumbs up for everybody who's here who wants to see what's going on and what kind of precautions are best for you to take for your life. I'm also happy to see a lot of gentlemen here. As I work with people with their digital legacy, oftentimes it's a widow whose husband took care of the finances and everything online, and she's just left not knowing how to do anything, right? And there's a lot of urgency and a lot of grief. So what I'm going to be talking about with you today is hard-won wisdom working with actual people in their actual homes after sad things happen. All right. So let me start with my first slide. So this talk has a lot of information. This one has a lot of information. So I'm really glad that Tina is going to be able to give you the link to watch the video again, because I'll be going through everything and there's a lot to go through. And watching it on a video, you can stop and rewind and look again at the slides. So don't worry about catching everything the first time, because you will be able to go back and look at it. All right, there is a lot of information in this talk. So much information. I'm going to try and leave room for questions. So when we think about taking care of our emergency access plan, emergency digital access plan, I mean, you know, in the back of your head, if something happened to you, if you had a fall, if you had to spend a couple months in a rehab facility or something else happened, you know somebody who would feed the cat, pick up the mail, water the grass, right? You have those backup things in mind. Most people also have their will and their living will and their medical power of attorney, right? If something happens, here's who gets the house, the car, here's who gets to make the medical decisions about me. Well, there's this other piece now, which is our digital lives. And what I call these things are digital assets, which is our digital pictures and our passwords and our logins and our accounts. And all of that is still in a little bit of a gray area right now. And those things change a lot more than, let's say, your house is going to this person. And that probably that decision doesn't change a lot. Well, your password might change twice a year. You need to have your digital stuff kind of up to date and accessible to someone who's going to take care of your things. And sometimes those people aren't very close by. So they might need tools to be able to help with your digital things from a distance. As I talk about everything, I want you to keep in mind that there's no one size fits all. And I use that phrase tech uncomfortable that Tina mentioned earlier. If you're somebody who's tech uncomfortable, then a solution that has lots of software is not going to be the right thing for you. There are more low tech options for things. So think about these things, and it's got to feel right for you and your family. All right. And I use the word family to mean the people who will be taking care of your digital stuff, right? It may not be a family member. It may be a friend. It may be your lawyer's office, but I'm using the word family as a shortcut. It does not necessarily mean a family member. So I'm going to head into the deep slides now. So there's this balance as we're setting up our plan between security and accessibility and dignity. So security means, I can have all my passwords, printed on a t-shirt, wear it around all day. And for sure, somebody's going to be able to help me if something happens and get into my accounts, but that's not very safe. We want to balance the safety of our information with allowing somebody to get at it. So both of my sons live at least 1,000 miles away. So my solutions for myself have to be things that somebody can get to from a long way away. I can't, for myself, I can't have my things, my important digital issues just in my local place where I live, because nobody's going to be opening the door to take care of those things. And then the last thing is dignity, whether you are dealing with yourself or somebody in your family. They may have private items, writing, pictures, accounts. There are things that may be private. So you want a solution that also allows somebody to keep some privacy. You don't want your people in your family to be able to come in and clear out your checking account at a moment's notice, right? So you want to have some control and dignity and privacy. You want to have accessibility and security, and that's different for everybody. All right. So making this plan, it's so easy. You know how the Marie Kondo, that magic of cleaning up stuff, you know how they talk about it's so easy, the Marie Kondo stuff, you just take every piece of clothing you own and throw it in the middle of the room and they'll work on it till it's done. So this is easy like that, which is, it's not really fun, but really important. And keep in mind, you're doing this as a gift to the people around you who will handle it. If you've ever had to handle somebody's physical estate and clear out their house, you wish that they had thrown out some things beforehand. This is kind of like that. You're doing this as a gift to the people who will be taking care of your things. So 3 steps. First step, gathering your digital assets. We're going to go through these 3 steps in excruciating detail. Gather those digital assets, and nobody knows more about your digital footprint than you. Second step is secure that digital data, either in the cloud or locally, just somewhere. We'll talk about options there. Third thing is notify those agents, notify the family members. If you do all this work and nobody knows, well, they might miss it. All right. The first step, gathering. It's you. You have to gather. Or like I said, we're going to have many slides and a lot of time on what to gather. You know your digital footprint. People think, I don't really have that much of a digital footprint. I don't have that many online things. Well, by the time we get through this, you're going to go, wow, I have a whole bunch of digital stuff. Second thing, spend time over a few weeks. This is not something you do in one afternoon. Keep a little notebook next to your computer and keep jotting down things, collecting your information. And nobody knows more than you. So this next slide, if you do nothing else, nothing else from this talk. The next slide is the most important thing. It has a big red circle on it with a star, so you know when you watch the video playback, this is the most important slide, and I'll tell you why. This slide is the most important. So in our gather phase, we're going to be gathering up for first our passwords, our usernames, and those security questions. You don't think about writing down those security questions, but I have sat with so many widows trying to remember their husband's best friend in college's name. Was that Ed or what? Edward? Eddie? No, that was high school. Was it Mike? Right? Or the cat's name. Just write down the security question and whatever the answer, somebody's first car. You think you would never forget these things? You forget these things, right? Again, this is also, it's not just if you pass away. People, I mean, we all know people, you wake up and have had a stroke, a minor stroke at any age, and you can't remember the password. You profoundly can't remember some of these passwords. It happens to everybody. All right, so gather your passwords, your usernames, and your security questions. They're beginning to move away from security questions, but lots of sites still have them. Okay, these are the biggest pieces of information that you need to get. All your email accounts with their passwords and their usernames, and you want to make sure that you keep that updated. And if you have one email where all of your that you use to sign up to accounts, that's the one where if you click forgot password and they go, we'll send you an email to reset your password. That's the one that your people need to know about. That one you need to know about. If there's private ones that you don't want anyone else to know about, don't put them here, right? Don't put them here. But you want to make sure that somebody can go to a website, somebody who's acting on your behalf, go to a website, put in the username, and if the password isn't right, they can click forgot password and it sends an email and they can get into that email account. So password resolution email is the email you've used to sign up with and where they are going to send the change of password email. Okay, that's important. Also important is your Apple, Google, and Microsoft accounts. And I'll explain what that means. Also, the little PIN numbers that you open your computer with, you use to open your Mac, or you open your phone, or open your Windows computer. That little number is different than the password to your account. So the PIN that opens the device, I know of one family where the man had everything stored in a note on his iPhone, all of his passwords. And the family said he never gave us the code to his phone. So this family went on and on and on. It wasn't somebody I worked with, but it took them a few weeks. They eventually figured out something and opened it up. But you have to be able to open the machines. So Apple, Google, and Microsoft accounts nowadays have more impact on your life than you think. Your Apple ID, your account with Apple, your Apple ID controls everything about your relationship with Apple. You can't do anything with Apple without your Apple ID, which consists of an email and password. Google, if you have Gmail, your Gmail login handles everything Google. And Microsoft now, especially with Windows 11, they're really wanting you to have that relationship with Microsoft. It doesn't mean you've bought anything. It just means it's their way of verifying it's you on your machine. So make sure your Apple, Google, and Microsoft accounts are way up in the really important stuff. Are you, okay, you guys can see my slides, right? Nobody can see my slide. This, well, when my face isn't showing. When my face isn't showing, can you see it now? Let's see. let's see, who can I see? Mike?
Yes.
Can,
Mhm.
yes, okay,
Yes, we
all
can
right.
see.
great. Yeah, sometimes I pop it up real small so you can see me waving my hands around, because I'm waving my hands around even behind the slide here. You're just missing this show. All right, all your email accounts, including the important ones where you get your passwords reset. Your Apple, Google, and Microsoft accounts, the master accounts, as well as the pins to get into your devices. Also, if you have some kind of cloud storage, if you have, and we'll talk a little bit more about cloud later, if you have Dropbox, or if you keep your things in a cloud storage, if it's Apple, Google, or Microsoft, that's easy. It'll be part of your regular account. But if you use stuff with Dropbox or stuff with any of the other ones, make a note of that with the payment information so that people will know before they cancel. Maybe somebody's going to cancel some extra credit cards. Well, you don't want them to do that and then not know that all of your photos were stored on something tied to that credit card. Okay? So these things are great. And up to about 2 years ago, that's all you needed. But now there's something called two-factor authentication, and that makes this more complicated. What's two-factor authentication? It's wonderful. It's something you definitely want, especially on any account of yours that has money in it, any kind of bank account, any kind of checking, anything where somebody could go in and pull out some money, your investment accounts. You want this two-factor authentication. Most banks and things require it now. What it looks like to you is when you go to log in your bank and they go, oh, we just texted you a code. Please put in the code, right? And what that does is two-factor authentication uses at least 2 different ways for you to prove who you are. So any 2 of these 3, something you know, which would be password and username. It proves something you have, like access to your phone or your email, or something that you are. Those are the ones with thumbprints and Face ID. So most financial organizations are going to require 2 of these things. Now, like I had one client whose husband had Parkinson's and also had a major fall and wound up in a hospital out of town and could no longer really use his phone. So as we worked together, all of the authorization things that were going to his phone, he wasn't able to use them. So how do we get around the two-factor authentication while still being safe? Okay. When you sign up for an account and it says we need some other methods to verify you, put your phone number. That's great, your cell phone. If you can, also put down an email address, because if the cell phone fails a couple times, it'll say, would you like us to try another way? Yes, try sending me an email, because of step 1 here, I'll be able to get into the email and do that. So there is something new coming in the future called passkeys, coming within the next year or so, which may get rid of passwords almost entirely, but we'll see how that works out. So two-factor authentication, excellent. Do not avoid it. Very important. But if it gives you the option, put in both your phone number and an email address. Okay. Again, this gives whoever is working with your family tools, a lot of tools to work with. We're going to continue now on gathering other things, more so than the just those very, very important ones. Here's where we start looking at, oh, there is a lot of this stuff, right? And you may have already been gathering it anyway for your regular will documentation. But with all of these companies now, I mean, think how many of these you have an online account with. The life insurance, mortgage, home insurance, auto, registration, loan, insurance, all kinds of banking, brokerage, bonds. If you're somebody who just bought these treasury bonds, these iTreasury bonds, you know, you're not getting, nobody's going to know about those. You just kind of buy them in the government. And then if you don't log in to look at them, they don't like send you things. It's not like They just kind of take your money and go away. So make sure you have this stuff all written down somewhere. And most of these have online account elements, credit cards, PayPal, things like that. Very important, of course, your Social Security and Medicare numbers, and also the online accounts to log in, because Social Security, you really need to log in to deal with Social Security. Sometimes you need Social Security, you need to change, the wife needs to change it out of one account into another account. Maybe the bank accounts are starting to be condensed down. And men, I'm sorry, it could be the widower as well. I've just often worked with widows. So driver's license, passport, your TSA number is not that important. I just tossed it in there because it was near passport. You want to make sure your driver's license and passport numbers are somewhere because they're such important identity documentation. And, maybe what happens to you is you're in a car accident and, the police or the insurance need your driver's license number, and maybe they can't get to your driver's license. Maybe it's in the middle of the sound or something. So these are important. And we move on to, health. Oh my gosh, since the pandemic, how many health things have we had to do online, right? Not just your pharmacies, but your doctor's office and those portals, right? The portals where everything happens, the portals where the results come in and where you ask the nurse questions, and health insurance. All these accounts are things that, especially in case of an emergency, your family member may need to get to find out what kind of medication are they on. How do I tell the doctor what kind of medication they're on? Utilities, water, gas, trash, electric, good to go, Adventure Pass. You can see internet, cable, landline provider, cell phone, payment, cell phone provider, and the payment info. Again, if somebody, picks up your wallet and there's 25 credit cards and your family member, wants to kind of cut down some of those credit cards, help them know which credit card the cell phone is attached to, right? Also, sometimes if you are going to be, let's say, in a rehab facility for maybe 8 weeks or 10 weeks, what you want is somebody to maybe put your $300 a month cable TV on pause, or internet or something like that. Or you want to make sure it isn't on pause because maybe you've got somebody staying in the house. So it's important for them to be able to step in and keep your life going and take care of the things that need to happen, because a lot of these things have recurring billing. So this slide has entertainment, social media, and miscellaneous. If you don't catch some of these things before they do an annual renewal, boom, you've got that annual renewal on your credit card, and oh, I didn't really want that. So you can look at the slide. This is a lot of the subscription services and magazines and arts, annual arts subscriptions. If you have Facebook, there are settings inside Facebook where you can give somebody else the ability to take over your accounts when you pass. There are a couple different settings. I think they're called legacy settings, memorialization settings. You can allow them to see or not see your private messages. You can allow them or not allow them to download the photos that you've saved there. And I think it allows them to do a post, that says you've passed. That's a special setting. Or you can just give them the password to Facebook and let them deal with it. Amazon Prime, Costco, all of those things, right? Just think about how sad and what a mess it is when somebody passes or when somebody is injured. It can be anything you can do to help them out. So that was us gathering our digital things. Now let's look at some other kind of digital things we want to gather. Photos and documents. So we have now, I think yours is I'm right behind most of you in generation, but the first generation who's gone from film cameras, right, with the little rolls of film where you had 12 chances to take a good picture and you wouldn't know about it until 3 weeks from now, right? You may have a zillion digital photos. Where are they? Sometimes people had the SmugMug accounts or Flickr, Snapchat accounts from long ago, and you're not using them. Maybe those companies have changed. You want to gather together your online photos, bring them together, and kind of, if possible, if you're not currently using those accounts, get those photos assembled. Find text threads, photos, and email attachments that are important to you that you wouldn't want to disappear forever. I have one woman who said after her husband passed, somebody sent me a link to a website where they were hosting a video of her husband at his last birthday party. And so we went into her email, went to that place, downloaded and saved that video, that last video of her husband. It was really wonderful. It's very easy for those things to be lost or forgotten. It's not the end of the world, but if while you're thinking about it now, bring this stuff together. Your download folder, your document file on your computer, know what's in there and what you want to save. So this is still in your assembling part. You're not really doing anything with them. You're just bringing them together. Then we want some physical items that can be digitized. All right. I suggest people have a bin. You know, usually there's a bin or a drawer for the big old paper photo albums. But what you want to gather, in addition to physical paper photos, in that same bin or that same drawer, throw in the little flash drives you have that still have stuff on them, because you want to get the photos, if you still have photos on these things and they're not the latest generation, you want to get the photos and the documents off of these. These aren't super stable little devices. They just do the best they can. They're really meant to be a little more temporary. The newer ones with the SSD, the solid state drives, are a little better, but they're still small and they get shoved to the back of something and nobody sees them and nobody knows that this is where all the pictures were from the Hawaii trip 20 years ago. So bring together these things. If you have old cameras that have the little chips in them, the little memory chips that are about as big as a fingernail, throw those cameras in the drawer and those chips and things. And in another step, we're going to talk about how to get your information off of those, because that stuff gets lost and it gets broken. You've got old computers, old laptops and stuff, old external hard drives. Put all this stuff in a bin. Even if you don't do anything with it, even if you're like, I am not going to deal with this, at least the person who will deal with it won't lose them, because this stuff just looks like kind of rubbish. And it's also a little risky. You know, you might have, sometimes people put things on a thumb drive when they thought there was a virus, and maybe there was a virus and you never threw away that virus infected thumb drive. So paper photos, chips, film in old cameras, floppy drives, CD drives, thumb drives, external drives, physical things, old computers and laptops, physical things that have digital information on them, right? Then we're leaving the gather phase. Now you've gathered this, you've dumped all of your clothing in the middle of the living room in the Marie Kondo way. Now what do we do with it? We have to secure it in a way that's comfortable for you. And I'm going to talk about cloud storage a little bit, and doesn't need to be cloud storage, but what does cloud storage mean? Cloud storage just means that it's saved on a computer that's not the one in your house. It's saved on a computer that's owned by Microsoft or Amazon or Google or Apple. iCloud is cloud storage. OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage. Google Drive is Google's storage. People have different feelings about it. You know, the odds of your computer breaking or being lost in a fire are much greater than those huge buildings full of servers where the other things are stored. And they also duplicate them. So if one physical drive in their giant system breaks, it's duplicated somewhere else. people have different feelings about it. It took me a while to come around to it and go, oh yeah, you know, my computer is much more vulnerable than those things. I mean, it's called banking level security because that's what banks use, right? Banks use cloud computing. So cloud computing, you can do that exclusively, or you can have a copy of your stuff locally and a copy of your stuff in OneDrive or Google Drive or something. What's the benefit of having cloud storage? One benefit is you're logging, you're at your computer and you log into your computer and you see all your stuff and it feels to you like it's on your computer. You can't really tell where it lives, where the hard drive is, where all of that stuff is. But you can easily share that with a family member, a digital agent. They can also log in. So like I said, both my sons live at least 1,000 miles away. They can log into my stuff because my stuff is stored in a way that I'll explain as a cloud storage. They don't have to fly to Seattle, come into my apartment to get to my photos and stuff. Which is good because they have busy lives. So it allows you having cloud storage, which is set up to be on your computers, also keeps things current. It has the latest passwords. It has the latest photos. You don't need to worry about uploading those things. Now, opinions about it, and people may not want that, and that's fine. If you yes, Mike. Mike's question is yes. His question is, I use automatic backup on my iPhone. Can someone remotely access my backup data with PC if I give them my username and password? And that is yes. Yes. But Apple is one of those companies that also sends a little note to your phone that says, hey, is this you? So yes, iCloud does that, but you want to make sure you have it set up so that your passwords and your pictures are being saved to iCloud. Any system that works for you works for you. If what you have is all of your stuff stored on your computer and also a little hard drive, an external hard drive, you back up your computer to an external hard drive, once a month or something, that's fine too. It's got to be comfortable for you. But having your data in 2 places is better than 1 place, right? If all of your important stuff is literally on your laptop and that hard drive goes, it's gone. So having your stuff in 2 places, on your little laptop and a little external drive, or on your laptop and in the cloud, is better than 1 place. All right. So securing, let's talk about different ways to secure. So let's go back to that first thing we talked about, passwords. Passwords and information. If you are tech comfortable, if you like software and you feel like you're comfortable with it, your computer's always updated, you are really engaged in what's going on your computer, you spend a lot of time, it's running a reasonably recent operating system, and you like learning about software, then a password vault is fantastic. It's very secure, it's very easy to share. They all have different ways to share it with other family members. They can be set up so they pick up your passwords automatically from your browser when you're keying them in, or you can enter them manually. They all have places where you can put the notes, right? Like the security questions, and your, passport information, your social security. I like LastPass. There are a zillion good ones. There's a lot of good ones out there. I like LastPass because they allow me to designate an agent beforehand, pick that person and say, I want this person to be my designated agent. That person says, okay, I'll do that. I'll be the agent. I contact them through LastPass. They say yes. LastPass says, okay. And then I set up a time period, a waiting time period, anywhere from immediately to, I think, 4 or 5 days. And what that does is, if something happens to me, my sons will know. They contact LastPass LastPass says, oh, we recognize that you're a authorized person. They don't open the account yet. They spend that period of time that I designated from immediately or 4 or 5 days, and they try and get hold of me. Say, is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? They're trying to get hold of me. They're sending me email. They're sending me information. Is it okay? And at the end of that, 1 hour, 3 hours, 3 days, if I haven't responded, they go, okay, we'll let them in. So that's what I like about LastPass. I have had clients who, and I don't sell LastPass, I'm not like Contribution. I've had somebody who had a family member with a substance, the only person they had in their life to take care of their issues had a substance abuse problem. And so they really needed to make sure that that person could not get in until the last possible moment. Right? So they set up a big waiting period. Right? Now, what's not good about having this a digital password vault? You have to keep it up. It's software like anything else. It might need to be updated. It needs to be installed. You need to understand it. You don't want to use it in a halfway. It's got all your information in it. You want to really be able to understand it. You don't want to just go, oh, somebody told me to use this, so I'm going to use it. Right? It's too important for that. So what are some other steps if having a dedicated password vault software is not it for you? And it has taken me a while. I used to recommend this to everyone, and then I realized not everybody loves software like I do. All right. Step down from that in terms of complexity is your browsers. Safari, if you're an Apple person, Chrome, if you use Google stuff, Edge, if you use the Windows one, they all have ways that will remember your website passwords for you. So that's step down in complexity. If you set them up, they can remember your passwords. They'll autofill them in. They'll catch the new passwords. You have to make sure you're logged in. And usually you think, I don't have to log into Google or Safari. Right, you only usually log in once, and then it just holds on to it. But you could tell if you're logged in by next time you're using your browser. Look at the upper right corner. Usually there's a little symbol that indicates you can click on it and see if you're signed in. If it has your name, you're signed in. If it tells you to sign in, then you're not already signed in. So what's lovely about if I have Chrome, Google, remembering my passwords, it's going to remember them and it's got to autofill them in if I have it set up that way. And if I go to some other computer, if I fly to Washington, D.C., where one of those sons lives, and I sit down at his computer and I log into Gmail, I log into my Google account, look at my Gmail, it will have all those same passwords saved. I think of browsers and browser memory. It's like an octopus, right? All of the information is like the cloud. All the information's here, up here in the octopus's body or whatever you call it. And you just access it through any of the different arms. So when your browser remembers your password, it remembers it up here, and anywhere you log in, it'll remember those passwords, right? So you don't have to take your piece of paper with all your passwords when you travel, but you just have to also remember to log out. Just treat any time you use the internet somewhere else at someone else's home as having given temporary access to all your passwords. But anyway, especially if you're just at home, you're on a desktop computer, you're not worried about who kind of comes in and out of your house. Just you can have Edge or Chrome or Safari remember your passwords. And just remember to use that one browser every time. And then easier than that, because sometimes people, that's also a step of learning how to set that up, is using paper. Now, there is no tech person in the world that is going to tell you that this is a good idea to write down your passwords. But I live in the real world, and the real world is, for lots of people, paper is where it's at. All right. So I am not throwing any shame because I live in the real world. However, the best way to do that is not this. It's not a million Post-its and little pieces of scratch paper, right? And among the 67 of us, somebody is looking at their physical desktop right now and seeing some little Post-its, right? Somebody in here that is doing it. So instead of doing that, it's so easy to forget. And then you wind up in a tangle. You go, I just changed the password. I don't even know what it is. I just changed it yesterday. And then you're changing it again and you're changing it again. People get, I can't tell you how many people I work with and where just the password issue is a big tangle. So if it's a big tangle for you, here, treat yourself to an old-fashioned paper address book, the ones with the alphabet tabs on the side, so that it's just easy enough. If you got Wells Fargo is under W, Bank of America is under B, all right? Don't get the ones that say, here are all my passwords on the front, all right? This is not safe in terms of somebody can walk into your house and pick this up and have your passwords. However, most people, that's not what they're worried about. If somebody's walking inside your house, you're worried about more than whether or not they're going to steal your passwords, right? So if you need paper, don't do Post-its. Do an address book. Make sure it's a little bit obscure, you know, that doesn't say passwords on it. And, you know, hide it a little bit, tuck it under a piece of paper, and make sure your family knows that that's the password book. But remember, they're going to have to get in and get that to get your passwords. But again, it's the real world. Don't feel no shame if that's what you do. When you change your password and you're using a paper address book, cross out the old one and add the new one and the date. And don't wait. If you are going to your bank and you change your password, immediately cross it out and put it in. Don't do it after you've added money to your checking account, because you really can forget. You guys know this. We can all forget within 2 minutes. Was it a capital B or lowercase b? Shoot. You know, and then you have to change it again. So when you change your password and it accepts the change, write it down right then. Okay. It's my 2 cent advice that will save so much problem. Okay. So that's securing your passwords. So we think password vault, or being saved in your browser, or a paper address book, whatever fits your life. Now, that other stuff we talked about, the photos and documents, you want to get them off of those little chips and cards and drives. There's lots of companies that do that. There's a company based in Seattle that will come to your home and scan your photos into digital copies. You don't even have to send them away. Just look him up online. You want to get everything digitized, because somebody will have to. If you have OneDrive or Google Drive or iCloud or Dropbox, if you have those kind of cloud storage places set up, put your things in there and make sure the setting is that they automatically get the new stuff. Can't explain to you how to do it on each one of those, but all of those, just know to ask that question. How do I set it up so it's automatically synced? And if they're there, you can also share access to those pictures to your family members where they don't have them when they're sitting in your drawer or sitting in the garage. And then you can also duplicate, as I talked about, if you're uncomfortable with cloud stuff, you can put it on a little external hard drive that's hopefully a little far away from your computer in case there's a fire, you know, or a flood, so that they both don't break. Or you can have them in both places. So you're taking them off. I mean, you're going to keep the paper photos, but you want them digitized as well. But you want to get rid of all those little chips and drives and cards, all the mechanical stuff that could break. Then the last step is notify. Like I said, if people don't know, you risk them losing, like those I-bonds, those treasury bonds. Nobody's going to know if you have those unless you're really explicitly written down. So notify, which is if you're using those password vaults, use whatever system. Each of them has a little different systems. Some of them have codes and things. Set it up so that a family member or a agent can get in. Or if you're using the paper book, make sure you say to your family members more often than they want to hear, my passwords are in the flowery book in the linen closet, right? Flowery book in the linen closet. So that, or the flowery book, you know, underneath the napkin next to the computer, something. Make sure that they know, so nobody just kind of sweeps it up and goes, oh, it's her address book, I'm going to throw it away, right? Make sure they know. And that's my presentation on setting up your digital access plan, gathering, securing, and notifying. And we have enough time for questions. And that was a lot of information, I know. Let me now come back out of this and come back into Zoom. And there weren't any other written questions. And I encourage you to ask questions because these are huge topics. You can unmute and ask a question, or you can put it in chat. That was a lot of information. Bravo for everybody staying.
I would suggest that if you have a question and you have your camera on, just raise your hand so Bridget can see you, and then take yourself off mute and then ask your question.
Except we have 3 pages of people, so I actually can't see 3 people, but you could say hi, and then that's a good way to do it if I can't see it.
There's
Not one question.
Comment.
Okay.
I noticed that Social Security does not have 2-factor authorization.
That's our government. There
Yeah,
we
it's
go.
odd.
Yep. But they do make you swear. They give you a whole page when you log into your Social Security account. I swear it's really me and I'm not doing anything wrong. And I know it's a felony and you have to put that check mark. So there's that. I guess they assume that bad guys will just go, I can't do that check mark. So yeah. Okay. So for my retired computer guide, does this kind of make sense to you? Does this read as sensible for you? I would assume there's lots of retired computer and aerospace people up here. So yeah, the copy of the slides is the video. I think we're going to go with the video this time rather. Is that right, Tina, rather than the PDF? I think the video has more explanation.
If you can send us the PDF, I think for some people that'd be helpful to be able to watch along and listen at the same time.
Okay.
It's just, it's a lot of information, great information. And I've seen this presentation now at least twice, and I take something away each time. I'm taking notes and double checking things. It's tremendously helpful.
And somebody asks, give delayed passwords to durable power of attorney via vaults. Give delayed passwords to durable powers of attorney. I mean, that's possible. I don't know as a, I would say that the durable power of attorney, so I'm not a lawyer, obviously, is more important even than like your Social Security account. That's your everything. So if you are 100% sure that you have it set up in a way that your person can get to that, then that's great. You better be 100% sure that your vault thing is set up right and that your other person can get in and get to it, because you wouldn't want to have some issue arise. Having an issue arise and having your Netflix bill be late is different than if somebody needs to have a durable power of attorney to, you know, buy a coffin or allow you to, you know, have some kind of extraordinary medical care. So it is absolutely doable. Make sure that it's 1000% that both of you have that worked out. Thank you, Johnny. Tech Help Company, the name of it's gentletechhelp.com. My information will be, it'll be in the thing that comes from Tina. It's on the slides. It's local, it's Issaquah. I do remote, meaning through the computer and locally in person. Thank you, Carol. How, if you've time, again, how safely transfers password two-factor to our children now? I think that's kind of, let me take a minute to go through that. Somebody's trying to log into your account. Lou, that's terrible. Those emails, sometimes those emails are real and sometimes those emails are not real, telling you that your account has been, somebody's trying to log in. So this is a whole different topic, which is security, which is, by the way, somebody put $5 on my business credit card for a dentist in Lithuania. But the notices that came from the bank about it looked like the scam ones that you also get, right? So if you ever get any notification from these companies, don't respond to those directly. Go to your bank or call your bank from a different phone number, like go to your bank card and call the bank there.
Mhm.
It was real, but boy, did they look like scams.
Yeah.
Okay. How to safely transfer passwords with two-factor to our children. When you set up an account with a bank or something, or a Google account, when they ask you, they call it different things. They might call it two-factor authentication. They might say, give us contact info so that we can contact and verify identity. They have different ways of asking for that. If you can, put down both your cell phone, which is the most convenient, and an email address so that your kids, if need be, can trigger change the password. We don't have the phone, change it via the email address. So that workaround comes from when you set up your account with the bank or whatever, having a couple of different contact methods, one of which being that email that your family will be able to have access to. So someone says they have a MacBook Air and they have fingerprint access. Did your MacBook also, though, require that you had a 4-digit code or a little code? They usually have you set up the code anyway, in case something happens to your finger. So I don't know. I can't see Deborah, but that's normally the case. And you can always get it. Yes. Yeah. So if you use, like my phone has Face ID, it just needs to see my face. Lots of people have the fingerprint, and I encourage everybody to put in another finger. Almost all of them will allow you to put in 2 fingers because you just know, right? You're going to get a cut on that one finger, and then for a month, you're not going to be able to log in. Well, you have a Band-Aid on it. So you can usually put in another finger. So using a face or a finger identification doesn't take away the PIN. Doesn't take away that. It just gives it another option. Great question.
Yeah,
It's really great.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. Bridget, yeah,
Yes.
you mentioned earlier that you have clients in your Gentle Tech Help. What type of services do you provide for a client as far as getting them set up like this? There's a lot to do for one person to start working on all this. How do they contact you, and what kind of services do you provide for a person to get set up in the proper way?
Okay, so my phone number is 425-298-6812, and you can call me and talk to me about it. Basically, I work with people on almost everything digital: computers, phones, laptops, everything from getting things set up to working with software to changing the passwords to there are people who I just help every month pay their bills and things online. So everything is different for whatever person. So when somebody calls us, okay, get me hooked up with LastPass, I'm first going to actually spend time and know whether or not that's a good fit for
Mhm.
them. Because if you put all your passwords in something, you spend all that time and then you don't update it, or you don't notice when it needs to be restarted, or there's an update to Google, so you need to put it on Google again. There's just,
Mhm.
so I help with all kinds of stuff,
Okay.
and do classes and things. But
Good.
thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I think we're winding down. Do we have any more questions at this time? Let's see. Doesn't look like we have anything else. But again, if you do have questions after the fact, go ahead and email those to Ike so he can forward those to Bridget. And if you wanted to schedule time with Bridget for a more in-depth one-on-one training, that's always a great idea as well, because she's the expert. Ike, do you have anything to add before we wrap
No.
up this afternoon?
Well, I just want to thank Bridget, and it was very, very informative. This is one of the topics that really makes you stop, pause, and think, something that's part of life, and something that right now that we need to be cognizant of with everything that's going on with the internet and all the digital things that we do. It was so timely, and I appreciate it very much. And I
This
want to
is
thank
the-
everyone for joining us
Yeah.
too. And as Tina mentioned, if you'd like more information about University House, about joining us for a visit, you're very welcome to come. Just contact me. You can call me at University House Wallingford or email me. Either way is fine. I'll be happy to have you come and join us at University House. Thank you.
And the repeat, to get the video, I think University House will be sending all the attendees the PDF, which is the slides,
Yes.
and the link. And this is the first generation that's ever had to deal with this. So everybody here is having to deal with something that nobody's ever had to deal with before.
Yes.
So
Yes.
fun.
Thank you.
Lu-
Terrific.
lucky-
Thank you.
Lucky us.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting for today. But again, if you have questions, you can call Bridget or Ike,
Okay.
whether that's about tech help, or if you'd like to schedule time to come in and talk with Ike about University
Okay.
House Wallingford.
Tina, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Everything worked out fine today. We appreciate
Great.
it.
Everyone, have a fabulous afternoon and enjoy. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.